So today we're going to talk about or continue BIOL1309 evolutionary diversity, and we're going to talk about the evolutionary diversity of land plants as well as the bryophytes, which is the mosses, liverworts, and a bit one more. So these are embryophytes. Embryophyte is just another name, the scientific name for terrestrial plants. And then let's first talk about the evolution of land plants. Very simple, a simplified version. So according to carbon dating, they were evolved around 500 million years ago. That from water, so originally they were green algae, and then they slowly evolved into the first ancestors, which were moss-like in appearance. Now those were the first land plants. And then as they moved further away from water, you can kind of imagine this as the timeline, and as well as this is at the closest to water and the furthest from water. So as they moved further away from water, they had to find a way to transport water from somewhere else. Mosses didn't really have the problem because mosses were stayed small and they only grew in moist areas, but ferns, lycophytes, and these like I think ginkgos and such, dicoids, monocoids, they had to develop the vascular system, which is the xylem phloem system, to transport water effectively. And then, so life on Earth today would not be possible without the transition of plants from water to land. So why is that? And obviously, plants are the producers of the uh, of the food chain, and not only that, plants also provide habitats and, most importantly, oxygen to life on Earth. So that is why they are extremely important. Now, Cleve also talked about one thing is that the mosses, it's from this graph. So there's like you might get the wrong concept that mosses evolved into ferns. They didn't. That's not how you see it. It's this common ancestor that's they shared. While one like some of the individuals of the common ancestors evolved into mosses, some continue to evolve and they slowly evolved into lycophytes or and ferns, and then these kept slowly going. It's not that mosses grew into this, that's wrong. Although this is moss-like, so it looks like moss, like it behaves that moss, it behaved like moss, but it's not moss. We wouldn't call that a moss yet. Right. So there were challenges. There were quite big challenges, I would say. Apart from dehydration, there was one big challenge, which was how to transport gametes without water. So in water, the transmitting gametes was quite easy. You just release the gamete into the water, and the gamete either has like a flagella or not. You can still use water as the medium to transport it to the other individual. So, for example, as a male, you could just release your sperms and then let them flow around, and then the female will catch it one way or the other. But on land, you kind of can't have that. You don't have a good enough medium. So, the early land plants had to develop some strategies that help them reproduce as well as handle dehydration. So, let's first talk about how they handled the dehydration bit. So, they developed something called the cuticle, which is a lipid-derived layer, lipid substance that is on the layer that helps with preventing water loss through evaporation. And then with reproduction, they had a few things. So these spores, despite them being non-motile, they used and because don't have water, they had to use wind. So the spores would blow the spores away to different places to colonize new areas. And this gamete, I would say the male gamete, is motile, so it can move and it needs water still. But this female gamete is not motile, and mostly it would stay in the female, yeah, the female gametophyte. Oogami, remember, sperms and eggs, different size, different. Well, I wouldn't say property. One can move, one cannot move. That's Oogami. And then this doesn't. This is not important. And then both of them had received like ways to protect them from dehydration as well as other things. Okay, so the reproductive cells, the anthozoids, spermatozoids, or just male gametes, are protected by the antheridium, which is, I believe, this layer. It's kind of thin over here. And the eggs are protected by the archegonium, this layer around the egg. And then, obviously, the zygote is also protected by that, where when the male gamete comes and fuses with the egg, the zygote develops here and still protected by the antagonia. Right. And the spore producing cells is protected by the sporangium. There's no pointing. I'm pretty sure we will see another picture with like labels. And the spores with the sporopollenin wall for protection against decay and drying. We'll get better details on that later. And this is also important, by the way, so you have to remember that. And then we'll move on to mosses and their friends, the bryophytes, the non-vascular plants without xylem. So we have the mosses, the hornworts, and the liverworts. We will This video will talk about the hornworts and the liverworts, and mosses will be in the next video after Chinese New Year. So in maybe like a week. So these bryophytes, they are very similar to the common ancestors, like the ancestors of land plants. Very primitive, small, ground hugging, and no vascular tissues, no xylem, no phloem, no leaves, but they will have leaf-like organs and parts. No roots, but have um, rhizoids, which is a root-like structure. Gametophytes are dominant. That means usually all the individuals you see are gametophytes, and the sporophytes are tiny, and they remain attached to the gametophytes for nutrition. So, kind of like if you remember carposporophytes in algae. And then, so yeah, this is dominant. You basically can only see these individuals, but you can definitely see these if you have a microscope or a good enough eye. So, liverworts in hepatophia. If you remember, hepato, that means liver in hepatic vein and hepatic portal vein. I hope you know that. So liverworts, again, not a phylum. It's a division of the clade in the kingdom Plantae. Yeah, so just for reference. Liverworts here has two growth forms. The thallus type, which is kind of like the flat, ground hugging form, and the leafy type, which looks more like leaves. And then these pores, they do not have guard cells. So they do not close, they're just like a hole, and they don't have chlorophyll. And these green things, they are photosynthetic cells. And then this is the middle part. And then this scale is hypothesized or is confirmed to preserve water. And this rhizod, which are not true roots, which only do the anchoring. So it helps hold the plant in place. Now, so I will go into a bit of detail here. So this part, you see I'm pointing at, this part is the vegetative body, which is the part where they do growth. And this is the male part where it produces male gamete. And this part is the female. So you can see this plant is actually the male gametophyte, and this part is the female gametophyte for this plant. This is the, I would say, like male sexual organ. I don't remember the exact name. And this is the female reproductive organ. They are unisexual, so one individual only has one sex. And there's one thing I want to show you. So, if you are familiar with a certain game by Nintendo. You might find these really familiar. Yeah, the hands just look like the female gametophytes. Hmm. Anyways, so the Antheridia, which is the male gamete producing part, is at the Antheridio. I'm not going to pronounce that. Forget it. It's in this. This Cleve said it looks like a shower head. This is the male gametophyte. My cat wants to jump on the table. Give me a second. Okay, I'm back. And then this is like a cross section and a bit of a diagram. So this is the Antheridia, which is the male gamete producing place, and this is just a cross section or a diagram of this. This is called the Antheridiophoore. Yeah. And the sterile layer jacket, which is the thing I mentioned before. I don't remember the name. And this is the part where the sperm is developed. Right. And then this is the Archegonia, where it is in this thing. I'm not going to pronounce this again. This is the female gametophyte, where it looks kind of like an umbrella. So, what this is, bit of an explanation over here. So, Archegonia, which is the part where they develop the egg, no, not develop the egg, protect the egg, and the neck canal cells, which is like a passageway for the sperm for fertilization later. So, this will be a bit complicated. Let's start at here. So, actually no, spores. Okay, let's start here. Spores. So the spores are, haploid and they develop. So unisexual individuals. We have the female gametophyte that had this, the female reproductive part, and the male reproductive part on the male gametophyte. So as I said, they still need water. So the raindrop lands on the shower head, and then some of the sperms might be splashed out. And if they're lucky, they might land on the female next to them, and then the sperms would slowly swim into the archaeogenia to fuse with the egg, and then they get fertilized. And the zygote would still remain in the female, and it grows into like a pod, and then the pod would burst to give rise to more spores. So you can see, although this, as I said, is never mind. It's not really that small. Like it's still somewhat visible, and it kind of looks like a cocoa tree. It kind of looks like a coconut tree, and with the coconuts. So yeah. Again, this is the spore where it carries a meiosis, and then sort of like thing. No. Oh yeah, this is called the venter. So this part is the venter. It's not called the center for some stupid reason. Anyways, so the foot, the sitter, stalk, the foot, the stalk, and the sporangium. Sporangium. And inside the sporangium, these are the spores, and this is the elaters. Now, I remember Cleve saying a few things, so just remember, all of these structures are diploid. They are developed from the spore. They're developed from the zygote, but only, and also this electus is also diploid, but only the spores are haploid. You have to just remember that. I don't want you to mix that up. And these electors are sensitive to moisture, and when they dry, well, when the surroundings kind of dry, they kind of twist and spin and flung these spores away. Sorry, my cat is in the way. And here, so sporophytes are here, and it bursts open. And apart from sexual reproduction, Marchantia, this liverwort also does asexual reproduction with vegetative propagation. I think that's how they call it. Maybe not, but well. So the gamete, this the sort of green disc in the gamete cups, and this is again, this is a haploid individual or haploid gamete, which is genetically identical to the parent, and it will grow into a new plant genetically identical to the parent. And then we're going to move to hornworts. So hornworts, and a little bit of a diagram, a picture. So these fellows gametophytes, they're on the ground, the green bit, and then these horns, these grass-like structures, they are the sporophytes. Again, the sporophytes are actually dependent. Well, they still rely on the parent for nutrient, but you can see they're green, so they can do photosynthesis. Okay, so moving on. Yes, this is a little bit of a symbiosis. So the gametophytes, which is this green, I don't know, sludge. The green part, the green on the ground part, contains colonies of cyanobacteria of this scientific name, which is nitrogen fixing bacteria, and and then they give ammonium ion to the plant so that they can produce protein. It's kind of like legumes and, again, nitrogen fixing bacteria. And cyanobacteria is actually photosynthetic. It's called the blue algae, but it's not an algae. And then here, this is the life cycle of the hornworts. Let's start at, I suppose, the spore. This is the spore, and then the spore would slowly develop into a gametophyte. Again, haploid, and then go. So I don't remember if this. Yes, this is like the individual contains both sex. So, and then you have the amphitheria, where the sperm, after I believe carried away by maybe rainwater, fuses with the egg, develops the zygote, and then it develops this stalk. It's called a stalk. Oh well. This stalk would have like spores develop in it. The spore tetrad just means like the spores. A spore tetrad just means the spores developed from a parent cell after undergoing meiosis, and then it gets N, and then the cycle repeats. So something. Let me see. Is there anything noteworthy? Yeah, these all just kind of like this is the stalk, I believe, so this part. And then the very end, this is the very base of the thing, the foot, the mammary stomach. So this is the development phase, and the gamete phase is this part. And then here is the tetradospore. So again, from the parent cell, where it went from it underwent meiosis to produce 4 daughters, and that's why it's called the tetrad. The stomach, this is finally a guard cell. They have guard cells. The central stand just for support. And yeah. So that's about it. And we're not going to go on bosses because Clevelow hasn't started that yet. So I'm not going to go over that. Yes, I should do one more thing. Forgot to show this. Hornworts, the division of the clad. It's even more advanced. No, not advanced. More, it's upper level compared to Liverworts. Yeah, both are Ambrophytes, but this one is early. This one is split earlier, and then this one is split next one. So yeah, I will see you next video after maybe a week, and when Clevo talks about mosses. So yeah, also happy Chinese New Year. I'll see you next time. Bye.